Hi, this is Paul Neale at Penn Productions, and today we're going to be working on a file here that is ground scan data that would typically be used in sort of civil engineering type projects, where we need to actually have accurate ground topology, and for putting in, for designing a new bridge or something, we need to be able to have that topology to show where the bridge is going to go and accurately what it's going to look like and whatnot. Problem is with ground scan data is it looks like this. Generally, it is a complete mess, and requires an enormous amount of cleanup. You can see the amount of polygons just sort of jammed together, probably all kinds of overlapping ones. Get into the mountains here, you can see that there is huge amounts of polygons everywhere making up these mountains. Now, even some of these mountains may not even be that important. We need to get them close and whatnot. We're going to sort of concentrate on maybe trying to make this river banks look pretty good and get them as close as possible. So what we have is really, really high density mesh. In fact, it's 1.4 million polygons. We're going to throw on an optimized modifier that I've already got on here. And we're going to reduce it down just to get started so that we can start working fast right away, and a little bit, having things working quicker. Now, if you notice, we didn't even change the topology that much, but we certainly just changed the amount of polygons. We've now got 437,000 as opposed to the 1 point whatever million there was. So what we're going to do is then just add an edit poly modifier on top of this, just to get started, make it real easy, and that's going to turn on all of our poly tools. We're going to work a lot in the freeform poly modeling tools here. And so we're going to start off by saying new object and create a new object, and I'm going to say call this ground Retopo. And we're going to concentrate on this river, pretending maybe again we've got a bridge that we're working on, so we want to be able to have fairly accurate representation of this river. We want to be able to fly a camera down it up into the to the new exciting bridge that we're going to be designing and building. So let's start off. Now, one of the ways that you can start off with the Retopo tools is using the Topology tool. What the Topology tool allows us to be able to do is lay down spline shapes. And they're not splines actually, they're just sort of lines that are stuck to the surface. And I'm using a Wacom tablet to be able to draw that line. Notice I didn't go far enough because I ran out of room. Roll your mouse over one of the tools in here and it'll give you a breakdown of the hotkeys that can be used. There's only 2 currently with the Topology tool. Some of them have upwards of like 8 different possible hotkey combinations to work in conjunction with the tool, and it's best to know all of them because some of them are very, very useful. Well, Shift continues a line on, so I'm just going to continue that down, and I'm going to go back in here and just start drawing the next line. If you notice, I'm not trying to be overly accurate. Hold down Shift again. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start crossing over it. And in crossing over it, every single time you make a square, you're going to get a new polygon. Now you are also going to see that I've got an offset value, which is going to be incredibly tiny probably, which is 0.5 right now, just to try and lift it off the surface just a little bit to make it a bit easier to see. But as we create those crosses across it, it is going to create us a new polygon wherever it sees a rectangle. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go down and create quads all the way down. If you notice, I'm not trying to create them small. I'm not trying to be accurate. We're going to do that as we get our overall edge loops moving in the directions that we want. We can then start refining and sticking it to the surface more. So I'm just going to go in, and if you hold down Control, you can remove that. And we're going to take that out of there. And then I'm just going to create one across there, and so we've got a fair amount here. I'm going to right click to end, and what it'll do is it'll build us our new piece of geometry. So we can see that that has actually been placed on there. Now we can go to the Move tool, which is called the Move Conform brush. One of the things to note is to change your conform weight right here up to 100. It for some reason is set at 0.1, and it won't conform 100% with your surface. So we want to make sure that's turned up. I'm just going to go to see-through so I can see through my base model a little bit, wireframe on, and let's just do some overall sort of coarse changes here. Now the hotkeys for this brush are basically the same as any other brush in Max, except that we have an inner and outer radius. So there's the inner, that's shift, outer is control, and then we can go to control shift to do both if we want. We've also got alt shift, which is the typical strength for any Max brush, and we can work with it as well. So I'm just going to pull those in. Let's see, so we're getting kind of, it's all right here down. Let's just push these ones in a bit more, I guess. Get them a little closer to the edges of the river. Now I want this river to be relatively high detailed in the end, so we're going to probably subdivide it a little bit more down its length. And again, I can just skip over to the modeling tools and we can go over to the Swift Loop tool. And I'm going to put one down the center by holding down Shift. And I'm going to put one center there and one center there. So we've got a few in there. And we'll get a few more running along that length this way when we subdivide it more so that you get the embankments a little bit closer. We might even want to cut across. Now what we can do is we can also just pull this out. We need to go in and clean up everything here. I'm just going to turn off realistic as well for the moment. And so let's do that with another freeform tool. We can use the topology tool again, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it real fast and simple. I'm going to use a tool called extend. What extend will do is we'll take and we create a new polygon anywhere I grab a vertex, or if I hold down shift, I can grab and just pull out a new quad from an edge, or if I hold down control shift, I can pull out an entire edge loop here. So I'm actually just going to crank that all the way over to the other side. Make it real simple and fast to do this. And we've probably got a complete mess down here. So let's just take a look at that complete mess. You can see where it's overlapping and whatnot. And that's going to cause us some problems. And I've got other objects in the scene. Oops, I didn't reselect those. That one, and there we go. And I'll just isolate those again and go back to our surface. So I've got a bit of a mess down here. I should probably get rid of some of these and just remove them. So I'm just going to go into polygon mode and just get rid of those. And we'll have to do something here to fix this up. Go back into my move tool and let's just move some of these up to the edge now and get them get this just sort of straightened back out. You'll see it doing weird things when it goes off the edge. See, as it gets pushed off the edge, you'll see them jumping around. At that point, you want to might move to just the drag tool. It does one vertex at a time, but it'll actually push them up to their edge really nice. Whereas the Conform brush will start getting confused when it hits an edge and doesn't really know what to do. So, you know, if you really need to be up against the edge here, we could just use this and just do it one at a time and drag it down. Or since this is a straight line, if we go into edge mode, double click on it, modeling tools, we can say align to X, and there's the alignment done in X. Now I don't think the ground plane is 100% straight in this case, so let's just tweak it over. Looks like I have my angle snap on. We'll just push it like that and call that a day. So there's the ground sort of continued to cross this way. Let's do the same thing at this side over here. So I'm going to go back to my extend tool and I'm just going to extend it out this side. Now again, I'm going to pull it all the way down and let's just go and grab it and let's just use our line tool and we'll align this back in. Looks like it can get pushed up and it can get rotated just a tad. Yeah, we can just move it right up to the edge somewhere. That looks pretty good. This is going to be a bit of a mess down here, but it's going to be less of a mess than anything else we were doing. Let's spread some of these out and get these sort of moved away from each other a bit more. And looks like being near the edge is going to cause us some grief. Again, fine, that's always the case with the move conform. So let's just spread those out a bit nicer. That looks pretty good again. And so we've got this shape now that we can work on a little bit. Let's also pull this down. Let's take this point down here. And we're going to align that up probably in the Y, I'm assuming. Whoops, forgot to grab the edge. And let's say Y. And let's just pull that down and over. And then we have one big one here. Now we can fill this in really fast. If we go to the extend, just grab that corner vertex, we can pull out a new vertex. And we've got a pretty good solution right across the board now. So what we can do is we can start to refine this and just drop in some refinements. Fastest way to do that is we go to the edges. I'm going to pick one, hold down shift and get the other. So we get a constant edge loop here. I'm going to go into loops, connect, and hold down shift and pick the connect settings, or you can go into the menu and pick connect settings. And let's go in and make them nice and square. So I'm going to try and make them as square as possible. So you can see I've got a solution there. I'm going to say OK. Same thing here. We can pick these. And again, we don't even need to close it, but I can say connect again. It's probably too many on this side. I want to make them square. Worry about this area, and down here it's going to get jammed together no matter what we do. I'm not going to be too worried about that. So let's just open that up. That looks pretty good. So now what we've got is we've got a whole bunch of verts that aren't on the surface. Back to our freeform, back to our conform brush, and again making sure there was a conform value set to 100. We should just be able to run this over the whole thing real fast. And what it did is it just conformed everything to it with that offset of 0.5. But you'll see that it's actually laid down on it, so we can actually have, this all the way down the center here. We could even refine this a bit more and say, well, let's be real and let's make this real important down this gully down here. And I'm just going to put those in there, and then again back to the conform brush and just lay those all down again, and we should be getting our our river looking a little more correct now. So let's start considering areas. What's our important areas here? I think I want to put one more edge loop down this edge here as well. I'm just going to grab all those, and let's go to another selection tool. Let's just grab those, and I'm just going to go to the connect, and let's go say connect again, and let's pull that down and just a 1. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now what we need to do is refine the whole thing, and we need to get it a little bit closer, and the amount of polygons a bit higher in it all. I'm just going to turn off the sub-object mode. I'm going to go back to our modeling tools, and I want to say mesh smooth, and I'm going to smooth it once. And maybe even again, just to get this up a little bit higher. So I'm going to say again. Now this is going to start slowing down our conform brushes. So as you select it now, it's probably going to take a minute for it to kick in and start functioning. And it's going to be a little bit slower to work with. So your conform brush may need to go down much smaller. But I've got a lot of areas here that aren't going to matter nearly as much. So I can just paint over that whole thing and conform it all. And so you can see where it actually gets higher density over the mountains in our target surface. It brush slows down. Down here it's actually quite fast. So we're getting closer. You can see the mountains are actually starting to build. Our river sides are starting to look pretty good. They're all coming around, and we're getting a nice river happening. We could subdivide that river a bit more. But I want that mountainous area to be a lot closer. So I'm going to go back to my polygon mode, and I know this area here is the area that we want, and I'm going to hit I don't know if you're aware of that one, but it allows you to be able to select over, and it didn't actually work as well as I thought. There we go. So I'm just going to select this area here, I guess, And because we have some mountains there, I'm just going to maybe go down the river as well, because I want the river to be really detailed. And maybe some of this area too. So I say something like that for now. This area is not going to be important. It's pretty flat. I don't want to just increase the polygon count for no reason. So back to our modeling tools and subdivisions, mesh smooth once. And now this is higher again. Back to our freeform. Again, you're going to have to wait for it to calculate again because it's going to be slower again. One way to be able to solve this problem, if you have really accurate data that you need to get it really high quality, what you can do is you can actually slice it up first into smaller pieces and work on it piece by piece. So you can see my brush is working pretty good now. I've made the center full weight, really large, because really I'm really making sure that I don't want to blended overlap on it. I just want it absolutely stuck to the surface here. So down here it's actually pretty quick still. Make sure I do that river all the way along. And you can see that that river now is really starting to fit in and take on the topology that we need. The mountains are even pretty close. I mean, they don't look bad. With a normal map on there, something of that sorts, you could actually get it to look really good. Now, something you might want to do as well is just set your smoothing groups. So I'm going to say properties and just say smooth all and make sure that all gets smooth, one smoothing group. And again, we could look and say, well, you know what, we're going to need to get in close, maybe a little bit closer in here and have this a little bit cleaner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and grab, again, just an area around here, let's say something like that, and I'm just going to go in and say subdivision mesh smooth again, and again back. And unfortunately, it doesn't work just on selections. It'd be nice if this thing could calculate just on selections. That would be really handy, but it doesn't actually do that. So we'll let this calculate here, and we'll just stick this down, and we'll move on to the next stage. So you can see it's going to be much slower now. But again, if you use a smaller brush, it's not so bad. And all we want to do is just stick down this one area. This is where we're, maybe we want lots of detail in this area or something. So we want to get it pretty accurate there. You might say, well, we've got all these triangles. We're never actually going to do anything with this ground plane having turbo smooth on it or anything. It's just going to be as it is. So we're not really concerned with that. So now we've got this pretty, high density mesh. We've got a nice river pass going down it. And now what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to get a normal map on this and pick up the finer details to make it look right and to have it work well. So now let's actually go and get a normal map on this and try and set it up so that it can be textured and get some nice subtleties of other data that might be in here, because we have some bumps going on. We're not catching everything, and a normal map might be able to pull all that up for us and just get it a little bit closer to what we're looking for. So let's generate that and get that set up. First, though, we're going to actually need an unwrap on this ground plane. Now that's going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to hit X again and say unwrap, modifier, and this is going to be pretty simple as far as it goes. I'm going to grab all the faces in the whole thing, and you'll see that what it does, it wants to put this unwrap modifier on, or this planar map on the whole thing. If we hit the quick planar map, this is what we're going to get, is this cockeyed map right now. We don't want that. We want something straight down. So let's just go over to planar projection, and you'll see that it's now actually just completely square and fit in there. So now that we've done that, if we go to the open UVs, there's our ground data that already unwrapped, nice and flat for all intents and purposes. Some of this mountainous area in here is going to be maybe a bit stretched, but let's check that out. And I'm going to go and put that on, show that in the, looks like we've missed a bunch of pieces for some reason. These were, I had ignore backfacing on, so I'm going to just do that again real quick. Make sure I get all of the faces and turn that back off again. So now we have all those pieces to just check, and we should be able to show. I'm going to turn this on and just get rid of the, there we go. Just get rid of the other one, so I isolate it again. Let's just open up the checkerboard pattern here and pick checkerboard pattern out of it, and it should give us the checkerboard pattern. Let's say material color. Maybe that'll be doing what's causing it to not show up. There we go. So there's the checkerboard pattern. So we can use this to see whether or not things are stretched. Now, I find with this checkerboard pattern, it's not really big enough often. And I don't know that there's decent preferences to be able to tile this up. Grid size, grid snap. So I'm not seeing anything that really helps us in that sense. So what we can do is just use a material instead and apply a temp material to it. So let's pop open slate, and I'm just going to start with a standard material, just something real simple. Right click and assign to material, and in the diffuse color, I'm going to go in and put in a checkerboard pattern. Double click and set this to maybe like 40. We'll see how that does. And set our colors, just so we can see everything better, to like a couple of mid-tone grays. Now a little bit darker. There we go. And let's right click on that and say show realistic, or you can say show shaded. Should do it. And so now we have smaller checkerboard patterns that we can see. Let's increase the size 80. So we can really see what we've got now, and we see how much stretching we're getting down the sides here. That's not too bad. You know, this is maybe where we want to get to. We might want to start doing a relax on it. It's going to take some time because it's such a big mesh. But we're just going to leave it for now and let that be good enough. And because we've set those up and they're working, always go in and say convert to editable poly and collapse the stack down. No reason to leave your UVs in the stack. You want to get them out of there and just bake them into the base of the model. So there's our solution currently. What we can do now is we can go and use render to texture. There it is. Sorry, I'm looking for my hotkey. 0. So we're going to use render to texture, and render to texture will allow us to be able to create a normal map from this and generate one. So we have the current high res, and again, let me just isolate it again. I should have just hid those or deleted them for the tutorial. And so I got my low res picked, and that'll show up here, ground retopo. And we have the ability to be able to project onto it. So we're going to say projection modifier enable pick, and with a pick it's going to allow us to be able to pick that ground plane that's available to us. It's going to immediately add this projection modifier, and it's going to set up and add the terrain into it. So you can also do it here just with pick, so you can do this manually by adding a projection modifier. What you can see right now is this cage, and it does a terrible job of adding these cages. I've never understood what it's doing when it does this. What I like to do is go into the cage rollout and then just say reset the cage, and the cage needs to be outside of the low res. So we're going to go and say just amount, and we're just going to push it up and out. Hold down control and speed up my spinner a little bit if I want, and make sure it is outside of both of the geometries. Because this is in a sense where we're firing the ray from. We're firing a ray down to the surface and try and pick up and generate a normal map here. So we're going to fire it from outside. Just go around and check. We can also go in and edit it directly with or even load a cage if we wanted, as long as the topology is the same. So there's our our cage on there. Then we need to set this up. We don't need sub-object levels. We want to use the existing channel because we've unwrapped our model. We don't want to do an automatic unwrap. You could if you wanted. Probably not all that relevant. It'd just be very hard to texture it and whatnot, unless you wanted to go to a 3D paint app like the Viewport Paint and Max, or out to Mudbox and be able to paint directly on the surface. In Photoshop, it would be very, very, very difficult. So we're going to slide down to the output type. We're going to say add, and in this case we're just going to say normal map, and grab a normal map. We're going to give it a size, and this is going to be a big ground plane. So let's start off with not something so big and just get something started first, and maybe 1024, and just see what kind of result we get, just for the sake of argument here. I'm going to give it a location to save down to. And I'm just going to pick my desktop, for instance, right now, just as a lousy place to be able to put something. And I'm just going to use either a JPEG, or if we want, we could actually go a little bit higher res and get a little bit more finite with it. And we could go to probably an EXR. And in the EXR, we're just going to say EXR. And will that pull it up? In the EXR settings, we can do a 16-bit half float. So we're going to get more data in here than we would with just an 8-bit image. So instead of 256 colors per channel, we're getting 65,000 plus colors per channel in a 16-bit. So it'll be a much better result, and maybe a little bit finer. Now we don't have a very good resolution here, but again, just for speed to get it moving. Other thing I like to do is turn on render to files only, so that it's actually not rendering out trying to build me a material. I like doing that myself. I'm just kind of a stickler that way. And so I'm going to push render, and we're going to let it run. Now if we see red pop up here, this is a problem area. So we're seeing red right down here. And this is a problem area in the model. Now the other thing is right now we're using Mental Ray because I was set up with Mental Ray. I'm just going to hit cancel, and I'm going to go over to my Common tab in my render settings and change my render back to default scan line. It actually does a better job, quite frankly. It's faster as well. Under the renderer setting, we also want to turn on global super sampling once we have something working, because that'll anti-alias it and make it nice. But right now we're getting these errors. I'm going to leave this off until we're ready for it and try this again. We've got some errors where the cage isn't outside, so you can see where we're still clipping on that cage. And so I'm just going to push that up a bit more and see if that also solved a couple of the problems over here. We had some clipping happening, and that's not too bad. We look pretty good again. So let's go back and say render. Don't show me this again. I'm just going to overwrite it. And you can see also it happens a lot faster with the scan line. So no more errors. So this isn't the normal map that's currently showing. We can go have a look at that normal map. I'm going to use the asset browser. And we're just going to go back to the desktop and open that up. And here's the normal map that's been generated. So we can see that it's produced a nice normal map. Everything's going on in there. That looks pretty good. And we're not getting any major errors or anything. So let's accept that. It's going to close that down. And let's just up the res. And again, we'd probably even go higher. Probably go to a 4K map. I'm just going to go to a 2048 and see what that does. Let's turn on our enable global super sampler and let it run again. Whoops. And let's not hit render there. Let's hit render. And in the render to texture dialog, and let it render. And so this will scan down our image from the mapping coordinates point of view. And again, we're looking for any red dots that are telling us that it's missed or caused any problems. So right now what it's doing is it's actually firing a ray from the projection modifier down through hitting the high res and then hitting the low res and drawing a point on it, making sure that it's indeed and drawing a pixel at that point that is a color representing the angle of the face. So that looks pretty good. We've got that. I'll just close these down for now. And just to be able to see what we're doing, I'm just going to isolate it again. I can just turn off the projection actually, or just turn off show cage so we're not seeing the cage. That might be the better solution. And there is our model. Back to our material. In the bump channel, I'm going to go and add a normal map. And in the normal channel of the normal map, I'm going to go add the bitmap. And we're going to grab our ground EXR, say OK. And because we're just using a standard material real quick here, you'll notice that the bump mount is set to 30. I'm going to set it back to 100 again. I'm going to turn off the show material and go to show realistic and allow it to be shown. And what we should be seeing now is a little bit more detail in the bump. If I disconnect it, you'll see it redraw. And we're going to be getting a little bit more detail. And it doesn't want to update again. And we need to set that back up. And that'll be giving us a little bit more detail in our renders, making it look a little bit cleaner. But there's our ground scan data now. We'd be able to fly down real close to that ground and get it to work. Now, one of the things we might want to do to make this a little bit more accurate and make it a little bit cleaner again is our optimized model is going to be a bit of a problem. I'm just going to get rid of the edit poly now. We might want to reduce the optimization on it and take this down. So I'm going to say a face threshold. I think if we take this down, it'll go lower and let it calculate. And then we might want to just go in and correct some areas to make sure they stick a little bit better and that the surface is a little bit cleaner. So we got a few more there. Let's take our edge threshold to 0.5. And there we've got 65,500, or sorry, 650,000 instead of 1.3. And let's take this down face threshold to 0.5 as well. Or we could just get rid of it entirely and turn it off completely. Sticking it down to the surface at that point would be very slow to get it to stick down to the surface. So that this might work a little bit better for the detail down along the edges of the river that we want to have fairly accurate. So you can see we've got more detail down there now. So let's go in and grab our high-res surface again. Back to our freeform modeling, we've got, and I'll just say don't show this. And let's turn on the Conform brush and wait, because all of a sudden our poly counts have gone up. So this makes it more time consuming. So now that it's come back, and we can just maybe make this brush a bit smaller. And I'm going to slowly swipe it down the river. And this part here will be really slow because of the amount of polygons that are in there. You can see that it's very accurate now, what it comes down to. So just continue this down. Now it gets fast as it gets out of that real high density part there. So you can see that that's sitting on the surface pretty good now. And again, if I wanted, I could do it with the optimize off. Now for a final pass on the normal map, I'm just going to turn the optimize completely off to get as much detail as possible and see what we get on that and see what it looks like. One of the things I'm also going to do on this surface, just to make sure that it is really good, I'm going to say smooth on it, so it's smoothed out. So back to our low res, should all be set up for us, and I'm going to go in and increase this to 4096. Very nice 4K map that's going to be placed on here. So this is going to be a 4K 16-bit per channel normal map that will be generated. Okay, so that calculated. Took quite a while for it to run, and let's just isolate again, and we'll check this, make sure that we've got it loaded. It should have reset itself and reloaded. I'll just make sure it does, and that should give us a nice ground now, a nice little bit of extra detail in the ground that we weren't getting before, where the the polygons are really starting to show. So it'll pick up that extra bit of detail. There's not a lot of detail in this to pick up. You can see where it's erring in a few places, where it's hitting on an angle. We can go in and blend that and smooth that, or get rid of it if we wanted, by just painting in the normal map. So there's our ground data. You can see we've got a nice river to follow. The surface of the model looks like as it should. We're getting some of the nice detail along it, and you can produce a pretty quick, high resolution, clean data for rendering just by using these sorts of methods. Hope you enjoyed that.